follow my colleagues in thanking Ayodele Oladimeji for bringing this motion. Mr. Speaker, I have never schooled outside this country, but I've had the opportunity of attending the best universities in this country. I've been to University of Calabar, I've been to University of Lagos, and I've been to Enugu State University. Mr. Speaker, in each of my graduation days, each time I had to convocate, I was told that the best qualification and the necessary qualification for graduation is that you have to qualify sufficiently in character and learning. Mr. Speaker, it is not rocket science that today we have neither character and learning in the graduates we produce. And the reason is not far-fetched. In computer science, they say garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have people that have been tutored properly from secondary and primary schools, you cannot expect to produce people who are going to be first-class citizens in character and learning. It is self-evident when you get into any of our universities that even the environment is not conducive for learning. When you have people who take to crime or cultism in universities, you find out that you are going to produce poor quality students and teachers or citizens. And what you get is what you desire. Mr. Speaker, we must note that education is not cheap. If the federal budget gives 7% against United Nations 26% requirement, how on earth do you expect that you produce something that is equivalent to 26%? You cannot get it because you have not occasioned it. And Mr. Speaker, you are even talking about 7% in this year's budget. Let us ask the chairman education, including the chairman primary education, our colleague who is an aspiring senator. Let us ask him what budgetary releases have been released out of the 7%. Mr. Speaker, we are just talking about figures, just mere figures. You do a budget, you don't even have the releases. 7% is not enough. You don't have 10% of 7%. And you are talking about 26%. We have to be serious in this country. And as a parliament anyway, what have we done? We have to say that it is a condition precedent for any appropriation to pass through this country that for the next 4 years, there has to be an incremental allocation to education for the next 4 years until we get to 6%. We simply have to do our own job. What we are looking for in Sokoto is in our Sokoto. Let us deal with it here. It is the responsibility of Parliament to allocate money to education. And more importantly, Mr. Speaker, you know this matter did not start today. The reason deterred for the establishment of TED Fund was for taxes on education and the establishment of TED Fund is because of poor education, poor funding of education. To what extent is TED Fund doing its job? What is the quality of expenditure they make to our universities? What is the quality of expenditure they make to our tertiary institutions? We need to have a feedback from people, from our committee members who are chairing those. It is not enough you get money and you just warehouse it. Anybody who doesn't use money to do his job is not doing anybody any favor. People who are serious don't save money. They get money to work for them. It is not sufficient you have money in your bank account. We don't want any reason why that fund should warehouse our money, whereas our education institutions are hurting. So we must make sure that this should be titrated in such a way that we have the full benefit of teaching our people in a good environment. Mr. Speaker, my worry actually is not that we are not only raising people who are not good enough in character and learning. We are getting to a point where people will not know what is good character anymore or what is good learning anymore. I remember when we were growing up and I was in primary school, we used to have flower beds. I knew what was hibiscus. I knew that, look, you have to have an agricultural farm. Today, Mr. Speaker, these things are absent. These students do not even know what is flower beds in primary school. People do not know what is clean toilet in universities. It is challenging. And we simply have to cure this. And the only way to cure it is to make sure we have people. Otherwise, over time, you'll find out that if it is the quality of students and people you are producing now, they are going to be your professors tomorrow. So you eventually activate a vicious cycle that will be dangerous for this country. I remember in the past, the time was it when somebody would go to the radio and say, fellow countrymen. And suddenly we went on a spiral. And it became fashionable to change government through other means than as occasioned by the law. And eventually, you see where we are. Sometimes we begin to forget even the reason. What is happening to us is happening to us. So, Mr. Speaker, I think there are very basic things that need to be done. Parliament will do its job. And we should start that with this 2019 appropriation. I'm not saying we are going to do an automatic 26%. But let us get an increase for education. If it's 7% this year, it must be 10%. And more importantly, this has to be set right when we are considering MTEF. MTEF must, whatever they bring and it is not up to 10%, we mark up the MTEF to cure that defect. Then two is that third fund has to be looked into. Their responsibilities and the way and manner they have discharged it. We need to be up to speed to that effect. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I believe strongly that certain basic steps, if taken, we will begin to reverse the trend. We will begin to reverse the losses we've had in education. Let us do the right thing so that totally as citizens will be greater and will have the most benefit for it. Thank you and God bless you.